Hey guys, this is Arif from TechShare. After almost 2 months, I'm going to record another video. So today the topics is Contentful. So you know that as I really like the headless architecture, and I basically made a lot of videos on Sitecore, XM Cloud, and headless as well, ZSS headless. So I actually learned Contentful last couple of weeks. So Contentful is very easy, so you don't need a lot of time to really learn this technology. It is super easy, super useful. So today I'm going to give you the full details of it. Like, it's not only the starting of Contentful, but I'm going to touch all the areas of Contentful, like how to integrate to other system using Contentful webhook technology, how to use content management API and content delivery API, as well as content preview API, and what are those three different APIs. And then I'm going to also give you some sort of idea how to use any third-party integration when you are using search. So that I would also like to basically give you some demo. Then so it's a complete composable solution I'm going to present to you. So let me give you straight away the app that I have already hosted here, and then I'll take it from there. So you can see here I created this small application using Contentful as a sort of a backend or CMS platform. So this application called Your Story. So this story can be anything. It could be an interesting story that you are going to share. It could be a recipe. It could be a very interesting or eventful kind of event that you just explored or you visited somewhere, things like that. So you can see here there are a lot of things that I already here. You see here some interesting story, some of the kind of a recipe, and then I also visited some other part of Melbourne other day. And you can see here a lot of things, and here you can see there are some sample text here, and this related story image, which is very interesting. So they are basically a AI kind of image where basically I am searching this image, and accordingly all the similar images I am presenting here. So I will also share how to automatically tag contents in Contentful using some AI technology as well. Okay. So yeah, it is very basic sort of application. It also has some sort of pagination as well, and then in terms of site search, I also have some meta tag added as well. So you can see if I go into details of each of the story, then you would see in the head section meta I have the necessary meta property like title, image, and tags, that can be considered to index to any third-party search system or platform, that will basically crawl the data and accordingly index the data. So even though this is very straightforward and simple application, but it has a lot of sort of features included. So all right, let's jump into that. Cool. So probably I'm going to share this presentation. So what is story? What is your story? So your story is basically, as I told you, it's a story that you are going to share. It could be anything, literally. And then here, sort of a learning, because as I said before, that Contentful is something I never explored. So I needed to explore in the couple of weeks just to understand how this internally works. And also, in order to support all those different composable features, how could I basically create a very simple application yet powerful, and you have all those different elements so that as a kind of whole it can work together nicely. So you can see here it has the Contentful CMS, and when it comes to Contentful, then you have a lot of different things. Probably I'll touch a little bit, not in details. CDI is basically content delivery API, which is basically, if you think about Sitecore, headless, or XM Cloud, we have the when you are using as context ID targeting to your live or production instance, that basically serve the data from experiences. So this is the same concept here. We call it in Contentful, we call it content delivery API. CMA is content management API. Sitecore also has the same content management API. So if you are using as context ID targeting to your preview endpoint, preview context ID, that is basically sort of same, but again Sitecore also has content management API as well. So that's sort of a kind of a GraphQL endpoint where you could add mutation and other add and modify kind of data. You could also successfully do through the CMA content management API in Sitecore as well. So similar kind of concept. CDI is only read only, and CMA is basically read and write, right? So this is the same concept as Sitecore we have. Webhook is very interesting in Contentful. So you basically create a hook for any kind of data that basically getting modified on the CMS system. You can have some sort of webhook connect to that, and you can do additional processing, and you can also integrate some third party as well. Preview API is basically same exactly that we have in Sitecore, where you have this as context ID pointing to the preview environment. And then content preview, which is in Sitecore you have this page application where you can preview the content. Also you have experience editor, but in Contentful it is not that powerful. It will give you some kind of a previewing capability it will add, and you could do some, as a content author you could preview your page and connect to the data on the Contentful side, and you can see what is going on there. You can add data, modify data, and you can instantly preview that one. And obviously when content preview is happening, it internally uses preview API, so that you don't need to publish the data. Similar kind of concept, but I believe Sitecore has more power there. Yeah, because Sitecore has this page application is very powerful, and also experience editor is yet very, very powerful. And then yeah, I guess that's the sort of learning. I will explain each of them now, but so far in this application I use Contentful, Next.js, then I use this AWS recognition API to process the data image basically and get the label from there, and automatically adding the tags in the background using the webhook. I'll share that on. Then you have this web API middleware for webhook. Basically when the webhook will happen, then you have to have some place, right, where it can go and do some automated kind of thing, like using this AWS recognition API, and then process that data and get back to Contentful and update some data in the background. So that would happen through this web API layer. The application is deployed in Vercel platform, and then you have this source as well. I'll also share something here as well, that how I did that one. Pretty simple. And then the entire application is basically the repository side, it is on Git, so the CI. Cool. So from the Contentful side, let me go to the Contentful first of all, which is here. So in the Contentful we call it a content type, right? So or content model, we call it anything like you can say, but yeah, it's a content type, or in Sitecore we call it template. So here you define a template. So here I am defining a template called story, and then you can see it has a lot of different fields, similar like Sitecore, right? And in the field it has some interesting thing that Sitecore doesn't have, that is very interesting. So let's say this title. See, if I go edit, then you would see, so this has all those different things like Sitecore, and in the title it has this ability to mark as required, like Sitecore also has the same thing. And then it has some other kind of extra validation here you could do potentially. And the very interesting thing is this appearance. You can say, hey, this is a short text, and then you want to have a kind of a appearance like a single line default, or a drop down, or a radio kind of behavior, or a slug, or a URL. So you can basically define how you basically get that data to be presented in front of you when you are adding or editing this data in the Contentful, inside the Contentful. So yeah, so that is the thing. So what I did is, title is basically capturing the title, which is a short text. Then slug is very important because I need to go in details each of the story. The slug will be there, so I will basically query and get the slug, and then story will automatically come because it's a unique unique kind of data. So it is a required field and also unique field, so that you cannot have a two different history will not have a single slug. So it would definitely be two slugs, so that you can basically present the detail space. Similarly, image and feature image topics, so it's all self-explanatory. Only method is a rich text field. And the interesting thing here I can see is, inside code you can also create your rich text profile. You can add different ability to have different kind of options, right? But here it is super easy. You can basically go straight away here and do this one here. All right, so this is basically the data modeling. And when it comes to data, then you can see this is the data I have, which is very straightforward. And if I go each of the data, then you can see it is basically the title. Slug will automatically prepare, because when you mark a field as slug, then the system will take care of you on behalf of you. So whenever you type some title, it would generate the slug for you. And see here, this is a very straightforward thing. Here on the right side, you see there is a publish button. And then here there is another thing we call open live preview. So you have to enable this open live preview. And you could only enable this one if your application is also running. So let's say I have a details page where I'm basically presenting this details data, right? So if I see this application, that this is the home page where I am basically presenting the list of my stories. But when I go into details, that's when basically I am basically presenting this. This is the slug, right? So you see here, this is basically the actual record. And here in the Contentful data model, this is basically another. So if you see this slug, if I copy this slug here and paste it here in my application like this, then you would see this record will appear, right? So this is exactly the same way you have to configure the live preview. So what would happen is, it would tell you. So when you configure live preview, I'll share later. So you have to tell that what sort of rules it will use and where is your details page. So it will basically connect that one in the frame, like on the right side. On the left side, it would give you the field explorer, where you could basically add or edit whatever the data you need. And you don't need to publish it. You just need to refresh this one here, because you don't need to publish, because the preview basically use internally preview API, which is basically using the authoring data. Okay. And in terms of configuring the preview, which is also very interesting, let me just quickly share that on as well. So here you can see there is a things called content preview on the settings menu, and then here I have created this story preview. And then here the very simple thing, I said, hey, this is the application running, right? So I am using just think about it, this I am using not the home page, but I am using the details page. And this slug is basically my rule of thumb. So whenever you have a slug, so it basically take the slug from your record, so and then accordingly it replace this one, and that way it can get the details page and preview in the frame on the right. On the left side, it knows that what is the record that you are exploring. So that is basically how it works. So you need to go each of the record, like this benefit of food. So this record has a slug like this, right? And then this preview will automatically open that story slash this slug, and then that is the way it basically successfully load the right side of the page where it presents the details, and on the left side it presents the data that you have, right? So it is very simple logic, very nice, but yet very powerful. At least content author can have some place where they can test the data before hitting the publish button. Cool. I guess that's sort of very simple, because the content model now, that how to create a content model. And then once you have the content model, then you can add a record here, right, based on that content. So very simple stuff. And media, it is very interesting. It has a separate API called media, and media is basically very interesting. So you can add a single asset or multiple asset. It would directly push it here, and when it push here, then we could also successfully, you could also add taxonomy and tag. So that can be manually added. So you can see here the tag list, you have to add those tags first. So adding tag is also very simple. This is the settings, and there is a tag menu, right? So you can see here there are a lot of tags that I have created. Actually I created in the background through the system AI, but and then once the tags are there, you can assign the tag in the image or any content as well. It depends how you are going to add the content tagging, right? So here you can see there is a tag as well, and you can use any of the tags that you have created. So tag can be attached to any kind of record that you wanna have. For the image side, what I did is let me give you some so API keys, very important. You can create your API keys. So if I create API keys, then you would say that it will give you this delivery API and content preview API. It will not give you though the CMA, which is content management API. You have to create that in a different way, but CMA or content management API is only required if you want to push some data and want to modify or add some data. That I want to do because in the automated tagging, right, I need to talk to the Contentful system and I need to add some data automatically. So I needed to use CMA, and you need to be very careful so that it is not exposed, especially the API token, because you don't want that token to be used by any other party, because they can do anything. Then they can modify the data, they can delete your record as well. So you have to be very careful there. All right, so what else here? I guess the other thing is this webhook. Yes, so the webhook I created on media added webhook. So this is the name, but if you see here the settings, you have that ability to use or attach your external API or external hook for a certain events that you can see. So this is basically different content type. So you can say, hey, this is the content type, means whatever the content type that you have created, and you can basically say, hey, when the content is created or saved or auto save or publish or unpublish, delete, you can have your hook configured for that. For my case, I use this one, and then here I use this this endpoint. So I use a ng-rock, so that my locally run middleware can hit from this Contentful. So what I did here is, for the asset, when there is a publish happens, I basically get the hook here, and I use the image from the payload, and then I talk to the AWS recognition API or system, get back the tag from the image, and then I basically go back and create the tag here. First of all, this is a public tag. You can see visibility public, means this tag can be used by anybody outside, or you can use it for any other public purpose, visibility purpose. It would be, so when you are using APIs, you can see the tag also going there through the CDA, because it is public. But if it is not public, then that won't be exposed in the API. So that is the very important piece or thinking. So you have to add the tag first there, and then you can assign the tag. So this is happening here, and I am doing this through a small application middleware. I'm not going to share that one, but you understand what I'm saying here. All right, so I guess that is the thing on the application side I'm going to share. So this application is hosted in GitHub. I'm going to give you the details in the description, so you can go and check this repository. But it is very straightforward repository. So you can see here in the repository, I have basically nothing but a layout is basically a component which presents all the header, footer, and the dynamic part, children here. Interesting thing here is this it's nothing here interesting. So I guess the index page, which is basically the home page, you can see here it is basically fetching all the stories. I am using SSR, server side rendering, but you could definitely or quite easily use the server side static site generation as well. But yeah, for me, I am using server side rendering. I also have pagination facilities here. So if you go through that one, you would quite easily understand. I guess the other thing that I have here is each of the story. When you are going into the details, story slash Slack can be anything. There I am actually using this meta property. So what I am doing is I am using OZ title, image, and tags, and I am using those data coming from Contentful of that particular Slack or the details of the story. and I am basically rendering that on as a meta. And this is very important, because once you have this one, then you would be able to successfully search, or you can push the data to any search platform. When they crawl, they can also pick it directly from the page, and that way your application can be searchable quite easily. Make it searchable. Very simple. I would also share that on a little bit, but yeah, it's very straightforward. You can see I am using this Contentful client library or npm package, and it is very powerful and very super easy, I would say, because if you see here, the way I fetch the details is, once I have the slug, so slug is coming as a query parameter, and then I am using this client.getEntries. So client is basically the SDK, or the npm package of the Contentful, and then it has all the method that you need. So getEntries is basically receive the content type that you want to fetch, and also if you want to apply any query or any filtering, you could also pass it there, and that's it. So once you have these items back, I am just doing some processing just to give the feature image and what is the related image and things like that, because tag is already there. So once you have some images, you have the tag, then you can basically query the entire media library with the similar tag and fetch all the images. That I'm doing here as a part of this related story images basically. So if you see here, you would understand. But yeah, I guess that's all. And in terms of the search, I use sitemap search, and sitemap search is very simple. So you can basically use, I also use this sitemap, and sitemap I use because I needed to implement the sitemap search. Actually, sitemap can be used for any other third-party search integration. It's not only sitemap search, by the way. But what it is doing is, if you see here in the application as well, I have the sitemap. It should be working. So if I go here and type API sitemap, then you would see it basically dynamically go and check how many details story I have in the Contentful content type, story content type. So it is basically taking all of the stories, and then it is basically generating a very generic kind of sitemap. And this is very important, because I then use this endpoint or URL to sitemap search, and I will say, hey, use this sitemap and then fetch the record from here, and accordingly go each of the pages. And this page are details page. See here, stories, then slug. Those details page has the metadata. Take the metadata and index it accordingly. This is what I actually did, and that way all that record will be inside the index. And then you can have a search page here, maybe search global search page, where you could then again go and make a query to sitemap search, get back the results based on the query or search sort of phrase that you are using, and display the record. So very simple, very straightforward, but very easily you can implement the entire solution in a composable manner. All right, so I guess that's it for a Contentful, very simple way, a kind of a walkthrough of this your story app that I have created using Contentful, or also AI. I used it. I also used MediaLawyer. I also used sitemap search. I also used sitemap. So all of this together, right? It is working. And then the application is hosted on Vercel. I also use Git for CD CI and Vercel for CD. So yeah, if you have any questions related to Contentful, let me know. I probably will be able to help you if you have any complex sort of questions or anything. Even though I am not very expert on this, but yeah, I learned this one. I created this small application. So yeah, I have sort of confident now. Cool. I'll see you in a next video very soon. Till then, bye bye and have a good day.